What is up, y'all? Today we are going to be eating like Scottish Highlanders. I'll take you through some of the meals that are deeply rooted with the culture and throw in some fun trivia along the way. So, without further ado, let's get started. Alrighty, so the first thing on the agenda is breakfast. And what I'm about to make you have probably never heard of, but it is a little thing called oatmeal. And this specific variety is called pinhead oatmeal. I don't know about you, but if somebody called me a pinhead, I would not be too happy about that. We're gonna go ahead and crack this open. This one is actually imported from Scotland, so we shall see. I'm really curious to try this. Oatmeal, or porridge as a dish, has been a staple Scottish Highland breakfast for centuries. It is commonly made by boiling oats in either milk or water. By the way, according to superstition, when making porridge one must always stir clockwise with the right hand specifically. Stirring widdershins, or contrary to the sun's course, will summon the devil and bad fortune. Historically, porridge has been most closely associated with the peasant population, as oats were cheap and readily available, compared to wheat, which was the grain of the wealthy. But it wasn't until the 1700s that the popularity of oats truly took off amongst the entire Scottish populace and became the dominant grain cultivated in the Highlands. Prior to this, barley was the cereal grain of choice. Today, oats are consumed in a myriad of sweet and savory recipes and varying degrees of complexity. But for this breakfast, I'm keeping it simple. Just oats, water, some salt, and a couple strawberries. Previous research had suggested the oat crop was brought to Scotland by the ancient Romans. However, recent archaeological evidence shows porridge as we know it has been enjoyed even by the inhabitants of the secluded Hebrides Islands for over 5,500 years. So quite a bit prior to the occupation of the Roman Empire. But from wherever it originated, the mighty oat not only survived, but thrived in the damp Highland environment. It didn't take long for farmers to start experimenting, and soon the humble oat became the star of many different recipes, from simple meals like porridge to breads such as the oat cake. So if I'm being totally honest, I'm not usually an oatmeal person because it just tastes like cardboard to me. But this stuff is actually really good, even just on its own with a couple of strawberries, a pinch of salt. It has this really interesting nutty flavor to it. So if you're curious and you want to check it out, I will link it in the description. But in the meantime, I am going to finish my breakfast here, catch up on some manuscript study of the Scottish broadsword, and then I will see you all again very soon for lunch. So we are back in the kitchen for lunch, and before we even get started on the food, what we are going to do next is actually make our own butter. And the way that we are going to do that is I picked up some heavy cream. You want to try to get the heaviest that you can find if you ever want to make your own butter. Apparently, I've never made my own butter, so I guess we will see how this turns out. But all you need is a mason jar and this stuff. You fill this up about halfway, and then you get to the partying, but we'll see how it goes. We are back outside again because I figured why not get some fresh air if I'm going to be sitting here doing pretty much nothing for apparently an estimated 10 minutes. So let's get shaken and see how long it takes. Let's go. The beauty that is butter has been appreciated by cultures all over the world, and the Scottish are no exception. In fact, some archaeological excavations have shown us that some Scottish folks were even buried with a barrel of butter. In the 1400s, butter made its first appearance in European cooking texts. It's been utilized for ointments, makeup, and burn cures, but today, we're making butter for culinary consumption. Okay, I ended up having to stop recording because I was sitting there for so long that my device was overheating. But check it out. You can kind of see some butter floating around in there. So it's actually working. Yeah, I mean, look at that. I'm actually shocked that this is working. I saw people online do it, and I was like, there's some kind of magic to it. There's no way it's gonna work for me. So I'm honestly thrilled right now. Okay, I think it's actually been like 10 minutes more since you've seen me last, but look, oh, it's spilling out too. But check that out. Isn't that so awesome? I feel so accomplished. I feel like I've actually done something now. I feel like I could, you know, live on a frontier and discover new lands. I feel like anything is possible, really. It's amazing how life-changing butter can be, isn't it? Okay, it's literally been about 30 minutes and I had to move the camera because the sun has now shifted. That's how much time I've been out here. But check this out. This is so cool. I mean, it feels like a trophy. It feels like I just won an Academy Award for Best Butter Churner of 2023. And I would just like to thank all of you and remind you that anything is possible with faith, determination, and a little bit of heavy cream. With that being said, let's go make lunch now because I think we've earned it. The only thing left to do now is to separate the butter from the leftover liquid, which we warmly refer to as
buttermilk.
We are back, and I could not be more excited for lunch because that butter churning worked up quite the appetite. So what I'm going to be making are Scottish bannocks, and if you don't know what that is, it's essentially bread made in a skillet, usually over a campfire or in this case a stove. And it's fairly simple, fairly straightforward. So I'm going to be using whole wheat flour and oat flour as the base. I've got some buttermilk, baking soda, and salt. So let's get to it. The bannock is a favorite for journeymen and adventurers on the go because it's quick, filling, versatile, and can be enjoyed either by itself or as a side dish. In terms of what flour to use, many modern recipes advise all-purpose flour, but I chose whole wheat for the added nutritional bump. But little did I know I accidentally purchased stone ground whole wheat, and while stone ground retains a lot more of the good stuff like bran, it also produces a much denser loaf, which I definitely experienced. So just something to be aware of should you wish to recreate this recipe. Fresh herbs and dried fruits can also be added to the dough to enhance the flavor. Herbs indigenous to the Scottish Highlands include wild garlic, wild marjoram, also known as Scots oregano, and bald money. I've also heard nettle is a great addition for bread. But unfortunately, I didn't have access to any of these, so I decided to chop up some fresh dill I had on hand and added it to the mix. Next, I heated up the skillet on low and got to shaping the dough. After cutting the dough in half, I then shaped each lump into a circle. When the skillet was hot enough to create a sizzle, I grabbed my homemade butter and let it slide. I placed the first bannock on the skillet and did a bit of reshaping to mold the template a bit more. When I finished, I gently scored the top of the dough with a knife in a simple X pattern. But remember to do this after you're completely done with shaping the dough. Each side takes approximately 15 to 20 minutes of cooking on low heat, but adjust as needed to achieve the desired result. After that, voila, it's done. Okay, so the bannocks are done now, and they actually turned out really great. This one looks a lot better than the one below it, which is why I'm kind of hiding it. But I did try a nibble off that one, and it is really good, and the dill that I ended up adding really brings out a lot of the flavor. So I am going to plate this with a hard-boiled egg and some fennel, and then lunch is on. And of course, this afternoon meal would not be complete without a good cup of tea. Bannocks have been synonymous with Scottish culture throughout history. So much so, the former poet laureate Robert Burns even paid homage to this dish in his song from 1796 entitled Bannocks o' Bearmeal. While he sang praises of bannocks made of barley, today they are made from more universally accessible baking flours like all-purpose, white, wheat, and oat. The name is derived from the Gaelic term bannock, meaning morsel. Okay, lunch is now ready, and I have a slice of bannock here, which I cut horizontally just to make it a little bit thinner, and then I slathered some of that homemade butter on there. I've got a hard-boiled egg and some fennel, as well as my Scottish breakfast tea. Even though it is lunch, I need that caffeine hit right now. I will say, if you are planning on recreating this recipe, the whole wheat flour does make it pretty dense, so be aware of that. I probably shouldn't have used as much, and I probably should have kneaded it out a little bit more. That could be another reason for the density, but other than that, in terms of flavor, it's really good. And of course, the butter makes it about 10,000 times better, just because butter on anything makes everything better. So, little tip there. The Bannock has made cameos in more than just poems and songs. In the show Outlander, for example, they make a brief appearance in the first season and appear to be a cross between a cookie and a scone, circular in shape and scone-like in height and texture. Last item on the agenda today is going to be dinner, and I am going to be making a brothy soup utilizing fresh vegetables, green lentils, and cod for a protein source, and I did save some bannock to keep that on the side. It will make an excellent addition for dipping into the soup. Scotch broth has long been dubbed Scotland's national soup, and just like genetics, everybody has their own recipe, but certain base ingredients remain consistent to make the dish recognizable. This Scotch broth is meant to be a no-nonsense, 100% natural take using only vegetables indigenous to the Scottish landscape, as well as a bit of salt and pepper to season, and some of our homemade butter to add a pinch of pizzazz. Traditionally, Scotch broth soups are made with barley, root vegetables, neep, also known as rutabaga or swede, cabbage, leeks, lentils, peas, and so on. Essentially, whatever vegetables happen to be in season and available at the time the soup is prepared. Historically, stewing meats like mutton or lamb are normally cooked in the soup and then removed before serving to enjoy as a dish of their own. But for this rendition, I'm doing the opposite, making a vegetable-based broth and adding wild-caught cod later. The reason for that being I made way more soup than I meant to in the beginning, so what I'm doing is seasoning the cod with pepper and salt, then cooking it in the oven. When the soup is ready, I'll just pour it over the fish and mix it all together in the bowl. Now, back to the trivia. The first Scotch broth recipe can be found in a new and easy method of cookery written by Elizabeth Cleland that was published in 1755. Her recipe calls for a huff of beef, a pound of barley, onions, pepper, salt, raisins or raisins, greens or leeks. So, fairly similar to what I'm making, but instead of barley, I'm using green lentils, which are also a common staple found in various Scottish soups. The green lentil is a legume that provides a great source of protein, whereas barley is a gluten-containing grain. Did you know, according to an interesting and perhaps somewhat eccentric article entitled "The Lentil in Scotland," found in the South Australian Register from 1851, lentils were introduced to Britain as a crop to feed cattle in 1545 AD. It is suggested that since it was a crop so ubiquitous to many Catholic countries in the Mediterranean, the name itself was likely derived from Lent, a religious observance wherein people would abstain from eating animals and animal products every Friday for the 40-day duration of the observance. Lentils were also relatively inexpensive, at least at the time of this publication, and it was known even then that they were part of a nutritious diet. They're an amazing source of protein, a whopping 13 grams of protein per quarter cup on average, and provide 15 grams of fiber. So it's understandable why they would substitute their protein intake from meat with these little legumes. And they're actually quite tasty. Okay, so here we have it, the final meal of the day, and it looks amazing and it smells so good too. So I am going to try it first as it is, and then I'm going to try it with some of the Bannock. I am very excited about this. It's really good, but I'm partial to vegetable broth soups, so maybe it's just me. I really like this though. And I think having time overnight, it'll be even better tomorrow, but oh my goodness. I love this. Oh my gosh, yeah. For an experiment, this actually turned out really good. So yeah, I would totally try this out if you're thinking about it. Yeah, so this is definitely a winner chicken dinner. I think this is probably my favorite meal of the day too. That is so good. It makes me so happy. Nothing makes me happier in life than eating. Okay, now we're gonna try it with some of the Bannock. I really like this. Sorry, it takes me a long time to chew. Okay friends, well I'm going to end the video here because it takes me forever to eat. I've been told that I'm the world's slowest eater, and that is a claim that I do not deny. So, while I finish my dinner, if you enjoy the video, please let me know in the comment section what your favorite part was. Let me know if you learned anything, because I know I certainly enjoy living like a Scottish Highlander for the day. Hopefully you enjoyed it too. So, thank you so much for watching. Please click like, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you all next time.